Some betrayals don't just hurt you once. They change who you become if you allow them to happen again. Stoic wisdom makes one thing brutally clear. Forgiveness is not the same as access. In modern relationships, people are taught to forgive everything. Disrespect, manipulation, repeated betrayal, all in the name of understanding and keeping the peace. But Stoicism asks a harder question. At what point does forgiveness become self-betrayal? Because there are actions so revealing, so corrosive to trust and dignity, that allowing them twice doesn't make you compassionate. It makes you careless with your character. Today, we're going to expose 4 relationship red flags that Stoic philosophy says should permanently change how you deal with someone. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect, clarity, and discipline. Stay until the end. The final red flag is the one most people excuse, and the one that costs them the most. 1. They betray you, then minimize it. The betrayal itself is painful, but what comes after is what makes it unforgivable. They cross a clear line, break trust, do something they know would hurt you, and when you finally confront it, they shrink it. It wasn't that serious. You're overreacting. I didn't mean it like that. Why are you making this such a big deal? This is not remorse. This is betrayal followed by distortion. Stoic philosophy treats this as a double violation. First, they violate your trust. Then, they violate your perception of reality. Instead of taking responsibility, they rewrite the event so they don't have to feel guilt. And here's the Stoic insight most people miss. A person who minimizes your pain is not trying to heal the relationship. They are trying to escape consequences. And Marcus Aurelius warned that injustice often hides behind soft language. Not all harm is loud. Some harm comes disguised as calm explanations. When someone betrays you and then tells you your reaction is the problem, they are training you to doubt your own judgment. That's where real damage happens. Not in the act itself, but in what it does to your self-trust. Most people respond by arguing facts, by explaining feelings, by trying to be understood. But Stoicism teaches restraint here. You do not debate reality with someone committed to denying it. You do not plead for accountability from someone invested in minimizing harm. Because every explanation you offer teaches them one lesson, that they can cross your boundaries and talk their way back in. The Stoic response is quiet and permanent. You stop discussing the event, means you stop seeking acknowledgement, and you change access, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because trust, once broken and denied, is no longer safe to restore. Forgiveness may happen internally, for your own peace, but the relationship does not return to what it was, and it never should, because a person who betrays you and then erases your pain has shown you exactly who they are when it matters most. Mantra: I don't argue with someone who rewrites reality. 2, they repeatedly cross clear boundaries. At first, you give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't understand. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe you weren't clear enough. So you explain. You state your boundary calmly, directly, without hostility. And they nod. They apologize. They promise to respect it. Then, they cross it again. Same behavior, same excuse, same apology. This is where Stoic wisdom draws a hard line. A boundary crossed once may be an error. A boundary crossed repeatedly is a decision. Epictetus taught that character is revealed through choice, not words, and repeated violations are choices, not accidents. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone keeps crossing a boundary you've clearly stated, they are not confused. They are testing how much access they can keep, and they are measuring how far they can go without consequences. Most people respond by explaining again, but louder, longer messages, deeper emotional appeals. But Stoicism warns against this trap. A boundary that requires constant explanation is no longer a boundary. It's a negotiation. And negotiations with someone who benefits from crossing lines always end the same way, with you compromising more of yourself. A Stoic does something different. They stop repeating the boundary, because repeating it teaches the other person that consequences are optional. Instead, the Stoic shifts from words to action. Less access, less availability, less emotional exposure, not as punishment, not as manipulation, but as alignment. Marcus Aurelius wrote that self-respect is lived, not announced. You don't threaten boundaries, you enforce them quietly. And this is the key Stoic insight. If someone only respects you when it's convenient, they don't respect you at all. Forgiving this pattern does not make you kind. It makes you predictable. And predictability is what boundary crossers rely on. So the Stoic response is firm and final. No more explaining, no more reminders, just changed behavior. Because a person who repeatedly crosses your boundaries has already answered the question of how they will treat you in the future. Mantra. Boundaries ignored become permission. 3. They apologize, but never change. At first, the apologies sound sincere. They say the right words. They look remorseful. They promise it won't happen again. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'll do better. And for a moment, you want to believe them, because believing feels easier than accepting the truth. But then time passes, and nothing changes. Same behavior, same damage, same cycle. Stoic philosophy is uncompromising here. An apology without change is not remorse. It's a strategy. It exists to reset access, not to correct behavior. Epictetus taught that we judge character by actions, not declarations. Words cost nothing. Change costs discipline. When someone apologizes repeatedly but never alters their behavior, they are not failing to improve. They are succeeding at keeping you emotionally invested. And each apology buys them more time, more tolerance, more chances without consequences. This is where many people get trapped. They start valuing intention over impact, tone over pattern, words over reality, but Stoicism teaches clarity over comfort. A Stoic asks one simple question: what has actually changed? Not what was promised, not what was said with emotion, but what is different in behavior, choices, and restraint. And if the answer is nothing, then the apology is noise. Marcus Aurelius warned against being impressed by speech when conduct remains unchanged, because repeated apologies without correction do something subtle but destructive. They train you to accept harm as long as it's followed by regret, and that erodes self-respect. The Stoic response is not anger, not confrontation, not moral lectures. It's withdrawal. You stop reacting to apologies. You stop engaging in emotional repair cycles, and you let behavior speak alone. If change comes, access may adjust. If it doesn't, distance remains. No announcements, no ultimatums, just alignment with reality. Because forgiveness does not require amnesia, and compassion does not require tolerance of repeated harm. A person who keeps apologizing without changing has already told you everything you need to know. Mantra. I judge patterns, not promises. 4. They harm you, then blame you for reacting. This is the most damaging pattern of all, not because of what they do to you, but because of what it makes you do to yourself. They hurt you, they lie, they disrespect you. They cross lines they know matter. And when you finally react, when you speak up, pull away, or defend yourself, they turn the focus on you. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. Why are you always so emotional? If you hadn't reacted like that, this wouldn't be a problem. In one move, the person who caused the harm recasts themselves as the victim. Stoic philosophy treats this as a moral inversion. The wrongdoing disappears, your reaction becomes the crime, and this is where real psychological damage begins. Because if you accept this framing, you start policing your own pain. You stop asking, "Was I mistreated?" and start asking, "Am I the problem for feeling hurt?" Marcus Aurelius warned that injustice often survives by redirecting attention away from the act and toward the response. This tactic is not confusion, it is control. By blaming you for reacting, they teach you one lesson, that your boundaries are the problem, not their behavior. Over time, this creates self-doubt. You hesitate before speaking. You suppress discomfort, you apologize for being affected, and slowly you lose trust in your own moral compass. From a Stoic perspective, this is the line that cannot be crossed. Why? Because anyone who punishes you for responding to harm is training you to accept abuse quietly. Stoicism does not teach emotional suppression, it teaches moral clarity. And moral clarity says this: a person who harms you and then condemns you for reacting has declared war on your self-respect. There is no repairing that dynamic. No conversation will fix it. No explanation will realign it. No patience will redeem it. Because the issue is not misunderstanding. It is character. The Stoic response here is final. You do not argue about your reaction. You do not defend your emotions. You do not justify your boundaries. You disengage. Calmly, decisively, without drama, not because you hate them, but because you refuse to be trained to betray yourself. Forgiveness may come internally, so you are not consumed by bitterness, but access does not. Ever again. Because a relationship that requires you to doubt your own pain is not a relationship. It is a psychological trap. Again, the Stoic walks away from traps without needing closure. Mantra: I will not forgive someone who punishes me for having boundaries. Stoic bridge: never forgive does not mean hatred. At this point, some people misunderstand Stoicism. They hear never forgive and think it means bitterness, anger, holding grudges. That is not Stoic wisdom. Stoicism does not teach hatred, it teaches discernment. To a Stoic, forgiveness is internal. It's the act of releasing emotional poison so it doesn't consume you. But access is external, and access must be earned through character. This is the distinction most people never learn. You can forgive someone without allowing them back into your life. You can feel no hatred and still refuse the same dynamic. Stoic philosophy is clear on this point. Peace does not require proximity, and healing does not require reconciliation. When someone crosses a line that reveals who they are under pressure, Stoicism asks you to adjust reality, not rewrite it. You don't punish them. You don't lecture them. You don't seek justice through arguments. You simply change the terms of engagement. Less access, more distance, clear boundaries. And here's the deepest Stoic insight of all. Walking away calmly is not weakness. It is the final form of strength. Tuck, pop. Final Stoic message. If you remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Stoicism is not about enduring everything. It's about choosing wisely what you allow. The 4 red flags we discussed today are not mistakes to forgive lightly. They are revelations. They show you how someone behaves when trust, boundaries, and responsibility are required. And then once character is revealed, the Stoic does not argue with it. They accept it and move accordingly. Not with rage, not with drama, but with dignity. If this resonated with you, comment below. I choose self-respect over familiarity. Like the video. Share it with someone who needs clarity. And subscribe for more Stoic wisdom on discipline, boundaries, and inner strength. Final affirmation. I forgive to free myself, but I never betray myself again.